All right. Hello, everybody. This is Tyler James. This is our Comics Launch special presentation. We are talking about the Australia Burns Anthology project, and I have with me today a number of the creators who are behind this. So we're going to dive in and talk all about this really cool project. And I want to start just by letting everybody that's in the room right now introduce themselves. So why don't we start to my right here, or in the little circle here. So Sean, you want to introduce yourself?
Hey guys, my name's Sean Keenan. I own the company Comics to Movies, which is a graphic novel publisher here in Australia, and I have been working with Tim to organise some pinups and some other special things that we'll talk about for the Australian Burns Anthology.
Awesome. Clay.
Hey everybody, I'm Clay Adams. I'm the co-creator of Fried Comics. I'm a writer, and I am thrilled to be contributing a short story to the anthology.
Awesome. And let's go down to Shane.
Hey everyone, I'm Shane W. Smith. I'm an award-winning graphic novelist and screenwriter, and I came out of comics retirement to write a piece for the Australia Burns Anthology.
And then last but definitely not least, Big Tim. Introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Big Tim. I guess I write Gorilla My Dreams comic book, superhero Gorilla Noir, and I'm the dreamer and schemer who dreamed up this whole Australia Burns Anthology project.
Well, thank you so much for doing that, Tim. And it's really been amazing to see this project come together as quick as it did. For those people that aren't aware about this project, I'll just pull it up on the screen. And if anyone wants to go and check this out, and for anyone that's watching this live, I'd appreciate it if you could just put in the comments comicslaunch.com/AB, which will take you directly to the Australia Burns page where you can find out more about this awesome project. But for those of us that are unaware of what this project is, Tim, what's it all about, and what the heck is going on in Australia?
Yeah, okay. So Australia is currently experiencing the worst bushfire season in the history of recorded Australia. So since over 200 years of white people living here, this is the worst bushfire season we've ever seen. We have bushfire season every year, but this is like unprecedented in the number of states. Every state is experiencing bushfires. My state, New South Wales and Victoria, is just being completely smashed by bushfires. Small towns are being wiped off the map, and basically we've been sitting here since late September, and there's been no break in the chaos, in the fires, in the destruction, and basically I got to a point where I was sitting here and I'm just thinking, I don't have a lot of money I can give, and I want to help, the people who are losing their families, losing their homes, losing their livestock, the firefighters, we've had a number of firefighters die, another 3 of the American guys who have come over to help actually died this week as well. And it's just so heartbreaking and so overwhelming. Yeah. And so I just thought, look, what can I do? I'm not, I've got medical issues. I can't volunteer for the fire brigade. I don't have a lot of money to give. And I thought, well, what I do know how to do evidently is put together a comic book. So I reached out to a few of my closest Aussie mates, independent comic creators, and I was only expecting to put together a 32-page floppy or something, for $5 a pop. And something like that it would be very small. But then the more we spoke about it, the more people came on board, the bigger the project got. And it's built into something quite exciting that has passed all of my expectations.
And I want to get into more about the anthology and the cool project. But before we do this, I've got to say, here in America, we're sort of caught up in the middle of election season / impeachment season / NFL playoff season. It's very hard for anything outside of the contiguous U.S. to really penetrate our psyche. But from what we've seen, it's pretty amazing what's the devastation that's going on there, and then also just hearing the stories of creators that I know in Australia. Because I mean, let's be honest, like Australia has a pretty kick butt collection of comic book creators and comic book scene, and I've had the privilege to get to know many of you that are there. But just seeing some of the stories and things, I'd like to hear, and Sean, maybe you can speak to this because you just sort of had it. But for those of you guys in Australia, like, how has these fires affected you personally?
Well, I've been pretty lucky myself that I've been at a further point away from it. But it wasn't until last week when I went on holidays and I was in Warrnambool that we really saw firsthand like the smoke that was in the air. Being asthmatic myself, my daughter's asthmatic. We're actually confined to indoors, but it's scary when I have friends like Tim, who's directly been affected and evacuated from their home. I got a friend up in Albury Wodonga, where he's taken a photo of himself outside his house, and you can literally, over the houses in front of him, see the fire coming towards them. Like, I did live where the last really bad bushfire was, near King Lake, is where I kind of grew up. I grew up in a place called Mill Park. So I just think, for myself, I was very similar to Tim. I'm building a house at the moment, don't really have a lot of disposable income, but thought, well, what could I do? I'm more of a publisher than a writer and that type of stuff. So for me, it was about reaching out to some of the people in my network and seeing what I could kind of contribute to the project. So, with Tim's permission, I approached Liam McIntyre, who's an Australian and a Victorian, but also an actor. He's been he was the main actor on Spartacus and also on The Flash as the Weather Wizard, and he's in the new Star Wars Resistance cartoon series, and he's going to do a forward for the anthology. And it's really hard to put into words when you're kind of talking about 12.5 million hectares being burnt, over 1 billion animals dying. That we're looking at a mass extinction for several of the different native animals that you can only find here in Australia. Yeah, it's just it's a bit overwhelming, as Tim said, and it's hard not to be touched by it. So I'm truly grateful to be a part of this and actually have someone, like Clay and that over the other side of the world that's decided to use some of their time and their skills to contribute to this as well.
Yeah. And Tim, I know that you've sort of had your life affected directly by the fires. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So me and Shane live in Canberra, which is Australia's capital, although everyone thinks it's Sydney is Australia's capital. But so we live in Canberra, and basically for the last 2 months, we've been breathing smoke that's been coming up from the fires that are hundreds of kilometres away. And so, look, we thought that was the worst of it that we were going to get, being in a built-up area. We're not coastal. Sure, we're surrounded by a bunch of bushland, but, we're a relatively decent-sized city. And then just this week, a fire broke out near the airport and basically decided to make a beeline straight for my house. And so it burned up, 15 the distance, 15 kilometers. Look, I don't know how many square kilometers it burned up, but to get from the airport to close to my place is 15 kilometers. And basically we were evacuated twice, 2 days in a row. it was, and yeah, look, and it's stressful. You know, I've got kids and pets, and you know, it was yeah, it was very stressful just grabbing the bare minimum stuff. You know, yelling orders to the kids, you know, just grab this and then get in the car, you know, grab the cat, get in the car, sort of thing. And you know, then the first day, you know, they said, okay, it's all clear, go back home. And so we went back home, and then the next day, you know, I'm off to work, and then you know, it all happened again, evacuate. So I sped like a madman from work to home, where the kids were on school holidays, and we did it all again. Went to a friend's place the other side of town to just sit and wait, and then yeah, came back Thursday night, and the fire's been controlled. And I went for a drive to the comic book shop yesterday, and on the way home, just the usual route I drive home, I actually saw, you know, up against the side of the road just how close the fires actually got to my place. They were just under a kilometer from my place, you know, which sort of added a level of scary to the whole thing. Yeah, so but I mean, it's fully under control now. It's out now, but yeah, it was a very stressful couple days.
What's your local comic shop guy? I mean, you know, here's someone whose entire livelihood is paper goods.
The beauty of that is we have two local comic shops here, Impact Comics, run by a gentleman called Mel Briggs, and D's Comics, run by Brendan. And they're both, Mel's actually contributing some artwork to this project, and Brendan's on board as well. So they know everything that's going on, and that, you know, they're up to, you know, they're next in this anthology as well. So yeah.
And Shane, how about you?
Well, I've been a bit luckier than Tim. The fires haven't come within sort of 15, 16 kilometers of my house. But we were holidaying down the south coast just before New Year's. And I mean, we knew the fires were around, but we were keeping an eye on all the official apps and had signed up for notifications and everything. There was no indication we were in any kind of danger. And we left the south coast sort of at the usual time, at our, you know, scheduled time, and 2 hours behind us, all the roads closed very suddenly, and the place where we were burned to a creek. The whole small town of Mogo just got obliterated the next day.
Wow. Yeah. What's it like explaining this stuff and to your children?
It's hard, you know, because it's obviously a scary situation, but you don't want them to be living in constant fear. I mean, to some extent, normal life has to continue because these fires have been burning since September. We can't just sort of sit and huddle for 5 months.
5 months, yeah.
So it's sort of a delicate balance you need to hit. And being prepared, I think, is the best kind of safety you can offer them. We've had sort of the car half packed, ready to go in case of emergency since the middle of December. And I think that gives them some sort of comfort that we're ready to go if we have to go.
Yeah.
But it's still we've been tense. We've just been living in this state of tension for months, and just how it is, I guess.
And my kids are a bit older than Shane's. 3 of mine are teenagers, and one's 11. And like, you know, although they're teenagers, and teenagers can be a handful, you know, when it came time to just, you know, as Shane said, we had plans beforehand, and we had discussed everything. And so when it came time to do it, you know, the teenagers, they just really got into it, and they knew the plan, got straight into it. You know what I mean? So I think, you know, my little tribe was a bit probably a bit more understanding than Shane trying to explain it to his little ones.
Yeah, that's probably
Yeah,
right.
then my little girl's 3, so I'm a city boy, born and raised. My wife grew up on a farm, so I had, like, mate, fires. Yes, I knew about them. I knew that they happened, but I never really paid that much attention. But we've moved to a regional town. we're the last house, or what they call the first house on a break. So if a fire was to come, we're the first house that would burn down. So for me, it's been a really big learning experience. Like putting, as Shane said, putting a fire plan into place. I'd never had to do or worry about that before. So we're only a few kilometres away from a state forest. So again, we've got the apps on our phone and notifications to know. If anything comes within 15 kilometers, that we're ready and we know what we're doing. We've got meeting points for my wife and her family, because we all live fairly close together. So that we know not to stress if we can't get a hold of someone, that we meet at a certain point and allow a certain amount of time before we start worrying. And then I think the hardest thing for me is, like, if my little girl's watching TV or something, and there's been some pretty horrific images of koalas on fire, the sounds that they make when they're burning on fire and stuff like that, that's been played on TV, and how you explain that to a 3-year-old type of thing, where she's crying because she can see that the koala's hurting, or something like that. So it's just, I guess, about reassuring her that we're safe. That, again, we're what Shane was saying, we've got a plan, and that I guess I've told her about the anthology, that Daddy's doing something to try and help those people that need some help. So
Yeah, so I want to sort of dive into that concept, because I know that this is something that we've seen before, right? In the greater comics community. And I think in a lot of times when a disaster happens, or something happens, like, creators do want to take action and they want to act, and it's noble and it's great. But then there's also, like, the logistics of, okay, well, how are we going to do this? And I know, Tim, you went through a number of different, like, well, is this going to be a crowdfunding thing? And are we going to use an official crowdfunding site, or, X, Y, and Z, and going through all this stuff? Like, how did you end up, I guess, assembling the team of creators and then start making some of these decisions? Because I know that there are creators out there that have either in the past had this idea to do something for something, but it seemed to me, like, for you, that, like, this was an urgent thing, and it was something that you also had to act on now. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, look, I completely dove into this blind. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just, as you said, it was just urgent and it just had to be done. One person I really got to give a shout out to, that's been doing a lot of the heavy lifting and guiding me through, is a gentleman called Darren Close, a Melbourne comic book creator here. He's got a lot of experience putting together anthologies, and so he's been guiding me a lot of the way. And the decisions I've had to make, I've bounced off him to get some advice. The funny thing was, Russell Nolte generously signed me up to his anthology online course, and it was so funny because I was already up to my elbows in this thing, having just reached out to everyone I know, and then every module of Russell's course that I would do really pointed out how I was doing it wrong, and and I was well beyond the point to fix it and do it the way it should have been done properly. So that was quite amusing that I got through the whole course, and I said, well, next time I'll know how to do this properly, but what we've got now is a big mess and we've got to work with it.
Yeah. Well, most likely Russell figured all that stuff out by making all those same mistakes the same, but hopefully that'll at least help you mitigate some of them.
Yeah, for sure. And it has really opened my eyes to the logistics of it all. And excuse me. But yes, Darren's been helping me, make these decisions. As you said, I was thinking about, Kickstarter, Indiegogo, whatever. But I didn't want it to we wanted to get the money as soon as possible to get to the people who need it as soon as possible. And so we decided the best way to do it was just a simple pre-order system. Instead of running a campaign for 4 weeks and then having to wait 2 weeks after that for the money to actually start coming in, we would just get hard to work on the book, open up a pre-order. The money's coming in already. We're going to have a semi-book launch. Again, the entire community has just been so generous in that one of our biggest convention circuits here in Australia, Supernova, has just donated a table to us at all of their shows this year. So we're using the Melbourne show in
4
March.
weeks.
4 weeks, okay, as the official book launch. But by then, the orders that have already been taken should already be shipped, printed, and on its way to the people, because we've already got that money, sort of thing. So look, a lot of the decisions that's been made, the decision to bump it up from a 40-page book, now we're up to an 80-page book, has been with a lot of deep discussions with Darren Close, who has really been talking me through it and helping me to make those decisions and be smart about the decisions we make,
Yeah. And so is everyone that's involved is sort of doing this as they're not expecting payment for it, right?
That's correct. I basically, from day one, I laid down a few laws, for lack of a better word. I said, one, we got no money. We're doing this for the firefighters, for the victims of the bushfires, for the animal restoration companies and whatnot. And if you're involved in this, there's going to be no payment at all. And again, because so many Australians and even some of the Americans experiencing the California wildfires and things happening over there, a lot of people just understand, okay, look, people need this more than I need a check for a book, sort of thing. The other law that I've laid down and I've been really hard about is that this isn't going to be a political book, in that right now on the news it's all about. Actually, let me start by saying I actually got in trouble at work because I work for a government organisation, and I did an interview for the Canberra Times, and my tongue may have slipped about something I may or may not have meant. And so I got in trouble at work for not being an impartial government representative. So when I say this is definitely in the spirit of being impartial, in that if you look on the TV, you look on social media, you've got all these posts from everyone saying either our Prime Minister did something wrong or our Greens Party did something wrong, or you know what I mean? And it's all focusing on all these government people. And from day one, I said, I don't want this book to be about politicians. I don't want to detract from the people, from the real superheroes out there who are putting their lives on the line and, dying to put these fires apart. These are the people I want to focus on. I don't care about the politics of it. I don't care who you think did right, who you think did wrong. I don't want any politicians in my book. Sorry, I say my book just because I'm being possessive of it, But, I don't want this to be about politics. You can jump on Facebook and there's 1,000 political cartoons that people are putting up all over the place. This book is about firefighters. This book is about people who have lost everything in these fires. This book is about, as Sean said, extinction. Is that the right word? Extinction.
Yep. Yeah.
An extinction level event to a lot of our native wildlife that is only found here. And so, this book isn't about politics. It's about just helping, getting money to people who need it. I don't know why I went on that rant. I can't remember the question.
Well, no, I think you're right. Certainly the fire's not checking anybody's politics before it comes to it. And, as the son of a firefighter who now retired and loving that, but it's definitely something that celebrating those stories and these heroes is definitely something that I'm excited that's where the focus is. So I'm curious, how is how is so you scrambled this together. I think you've probably been working on this whole project from in less than a month. Got a pre-order page up, just using your existing, or using I think a pre-order page that you started specifically for this. How's it doing?
Look, it's, as far as I'm concerned, it's already blown past my expectations. As of today, there's been 242 orders from Australia and overseas, and the revenue raised as of right now is $7,450. And for a guy who, as I said, I was just planning to put together a little floppy comic just to be like, let's see what we can do. It's blown my expectations out of the water already.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, what I love about it is you go to the site and you kept the rewards nice and simple, but you did provide a range, and it looks like you can get the digital for $20, the print, and is it fair to say that minus transaction fees, if you're grabbing the digital, like 100% of that less transaction fees is going straight to the people that need it, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's probably the best bang for your buck right there. Yeah, definitely. The entire $20 of those will be going to the to firefighters and animal restoration and victims who have lost everything in the fires.
Yeah.
Tyler, Tim's been very, very, very modest here, but not only has he been interviewed by the national paper in Canberra, but he's also had this anthology retweeted by Kevin Smith himself, who's also offered to promote the anthology when he comes here in March. He's had several other actors and that on Twitter repost and reshare, and he's not going to admit it, but he's a bit of a musician himself, and he's done a fundraising event for that as well. So he's downplaying like how much he's actually done and contributed to this whole process and everything. So I think we wouldn't be surprised if this goes even further in another 4 weeks or so. And as you said, with the convention coming on board and having an opportunity now to pick these up at conventions, we're going to be able to get people that maybe are not within our comic circle and that we're able to kind of shine a spotlight on this book as well.
Talk to me a little bit about the outreach to local comic shops, because I see one of the options is for an in-store pickup option, and it looks like you already have a nice selection of comic shops that are on board with this and supporting this as well.
Basically, the discussion for that started with Mal from Impact Comics, where he was saying people were coming in because he put it in his comic store newsletter, and people were coming in saying, look, are you going to get the book? I'll pick it up from you if you're going to get it. And he was kind of like, well, no, we need it. We want it ordered from from the website, so we get the money as soon as possible. It's not look, it's not a book that I want stores sitting on copies, me with 100 copies under my desk or something. It's something that I just want to again, just raise the money and get it to the people who need it. But Mal suggested if there was a store pickup option, that when people would come in and ask him, he would just say, look, we'll hit this link, buy it, and you can pick it up from the store when it comes out. But then Mal, again, generously offered that if we could find basically one, maybe two stores in each major city who also wanted to, that he would use his business postage account, which would be cheaper than us sending out big boxes of comics, to get to those few stores, So, and then again, Darren's really stepped up to the plate. Darren Close, he's, reached out to a few stores in his area. I reached out to both the stores in my area. And yeah, just from there, that's where that options come from.
Yeah. I tell you, it's probably cliche to the point where just another great demonstration about how in adversity people come together in strange ways, and people just step up from the people that are supporting this project, to the creators that are contributing their time, to the retailers, to other things like that.
And the printer too, I understand, is printing the copies of the book at no charge to Tim.
Yeah, how did that come about? And let's give give that person a big shout out and thumbs up.
Well, basically, I started a Facebook group, a private Facebook group for creators to come and throw ideas around and all this sort of stuff. And I invited a gentleman called Baden from Jeffrey's Printing here in Australia. And just as people were saying, look, I'll add a pin up, I'll do a story. Then he just piped up and said, look, I'll cover printing costs, and like we didn't poke him with a stick or try and coerce him into it. He just volunteered it, and he's the guy that I get my Guerrilla Comics printed up with. So I've got a working history with him. But yeah, just him coming to the table and saying, look, everyone's donating their time. Look, I can donate the printing,
Yeah, that's tremendous. And so I'm curious about how'd you go about deciding and picking the specific places or charities or groups that are going to be the recipients of these funds?
Yeah, look, I've got to be honest that I have some nailed down, and then some are still I'm still researching. Because it's just so overwhelming, the people that need money. So at this point, and it's tricky in a situation like this trying to play God. You know what I mean? Deciding who needs more money than who. I hate it. But seeing as Victoria and New South Wales are basically completely on fire, we're going to split the money to the New South Wales Fire Service and the Victorian Fire Service. We're also there was another charity we were going to split some money to go to, but I'm still researching that because it turns out they've got a lot of sort of overhead administration costs, and I want to really find who can get the most of this money to the right place, without a CEO making big bucks off it, sort of thing. Right. So the two we've got nailed down are the New South Wales Fire Service and the Victoria Fire Service. There are a number of in Victoria animal restoration services that I really want to get some money to, and so the last one is just deciding, Red Cross, Salvation Army, whatever, who's going to get the most money to the actual people who are now homeless or have lost everything. So yeah, we've nailed down half. We're still figuring out the other half who the money's going to.
Yeah, well, I know Sean's daughter definitely wants those koalas to definitely get some. So
yeah, and that's definitely
at least one koala for her.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
I think the hardest thing is what Tim was saying, is that there's all the stuff that you know about and we know about now that the people need help. So the people that have lost their homes, the firefighters that are donating their time and volunteering their time, that they financially need support and everything. But there's also all of this other stuff that is also going to need help down the track, like sporting areas have been burnt to the ground, and because it's in a whole shire or whatever, it means like kids are not able to play Australian rules football or your NFL that you guys talk about. So they've lost all of their equipment and everything like that. There's playgrounds, there's community centers, there's areas for teenagers to come together and all that type of stuff. So I'm looking hopefully 6 months, 8 months down the track to get out to some of these areas and do some things with the community there to kind of bring them together, because this unfortunately is not something that's just going to go away in 4 weeks or 6 weeks times. This is going to be something that's affecting a lot of people for 8, 9, 12, 18, 24 months later type of thing. And, that's why I guess it's such a hard job and I'm glad Tim's doing it. I'm trying to work out where those funds are going to, because there literally is so many areas that could do with that, a little bit of money and a little bit of help and all that type of stuff.
Right. Now, I saw we had a question come in through YouTube from Tyler Blake, another member of the Comics Launch Pro community. And again, it's great that obviously I know all of you guys through that community. But he says, is the anthology locked down in terms of page count, or are you still accepting any submissions, Tim?
Look, yeah, we are still accepting submissions, but I believe we're at the point where tough decisions are going to start being made as to what gets in the book. Again, as I said, I was only expecting me, Shane, and Ryan to throw something together and get my buddy Dan Watts and maybe Ahmed to draw it or whatever. So I wasn't expecting so much, but we've decided on an 80-page book at this point, and we're starting to have to make really tough decisions as to what stays and what goes. But having said that, man, we're open to submissions. Any thoughts? Anyone who still wants to get on board. Our deadline, though, because again we want to turn this around really quickly, our deadline is the 14th of February. That's when we need finished art, stories, pinups, everything. That's basically when we want to spend, a day or two putting the book together into a PDF and sending it off to the printers. Okay, so yes, if you want to, submit something, go ahead. We're happy to get all the submissions as possible.
Okay, and I'm going to put a link to the Australia Burns Facebook group. Is that all right to share if people want?
Yeah, man.
Yep. Check this out. And when this airs on the Comics Launch podcast, it will probably be beyond or that deadline will probably be right around the corner. But for people that are watching this, we're streaming it live on Facebook and YouTube, etc. So I'm posting a link in some of those places on just for the Facebook group, and you can ask for permission to join and find out some more details about it. And I have that group up here. It's a cool group of 130 members. So obviously, some of these folks are just participating in terms of their ideas and their support. But tremendous. I'm curious, and I'll go to Clay here because Clay can't give us any color commentary on what it's like in Australia. But I'm wondering about your thoughts about whether, because I was sort of thinking about this, and I know exactly why you launched it the way you did and pre-ordering it and getting access to that fund so it can get where it needs immediately. I wonder your thoughts, Clay, on when this thing is done and all the art is in and it's ready, about going and trying to launch it on a platform like Kickstarter or Indiegogo or one of the others to get in front of that audience, as well as an extra crack at more awareness, more support on a channel that people are already at versus, a site that Big Tim just threw up just the other day. Thoughts?
Yeah, I think trying to get on a bigger platform is fantastic where there's already traffic, like going to go to the market, where the people are. I think with Kickstarter, it might be a little tough, right? Because they don't allow charity projects, but I don't know about Indiegogo, and there's certainly GoFundMe, which may be worth looking into.
And honestly, I was looking again at the Kickstarter terms of service, because we've seen projects launch on Kickstarter to support causes before. They say projects can't fundraise for charity. They also say while nonprofits are welcome to launch projects on Kickstarter, projects can't promise to raise funds to donate to a charity or cause. Funds raised on Kickstarter must go towards facilitating the project outlined by the creator on the project page. I feel like what that is essentially saying is that as long as you're not using charity as your selling point, you can still launch this project on our platform. I don't know if anyone from any legal minds out there or any Kickstarter would be specifically against it, but I could see this. I could see a way to frame a launch around, be a part of this awesome, like here's what we did. Now we're making this book available to a wider audience that wants to participate in this cause, and just not explicitly say this is for charity or not, but you get the funds, you have the ability to do whatever you'd like with it. So
I mean, the only risk I could see with that is that Kickstarter funds raise taxable income, and that could be a liability for Tim
right
tax time.
Yeah, so I mean that may be something that you'd have to work into, but that actually meant, like, if you're not and this is one of those tricky things that can and something that I hope you look into, Tim, is that, like, to not be a charity, you have to make sure that these funds are accounted for in a way that won't hit you at that point as well.
But definitely, I think, multiple launches, getting in front of multiple audiences, that certainly can't hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, I think not having done something like this before, a lot of people were offering, look, we can do it. We could do a launch over here. We can do a launch over there. But I think at this point, I'm a bit too hesitant of me trying to keep track of where funds are supposed to be coming from. You know what I mean? If 6 stores around Australia are doing launch events and even overseas, I think the logistics of me personally trying to keep up with all that sort of makes my brain ache a little bit.
Yeah.
Whereas right now I'm pretty much the center point of contact, and the funds that do come in basically come to me, so I know what's where and what has to go where. But again, with Darren Close really partnering up with me and mentoring me through the process, it's something I could bounce off him for sure, because he's got the expertise for that sort of thing,
Yeah. Well, and you know what, we also have to, like, we can go plans as big as possible, but this is also something that you're doing around all of the other projects that you have going on, and a life and a family and work. So I think it's very noble and impressive how this has taken off already.
Yeah.
So.
Look, it was funny at the start of the year. I was saying, I'm only going to take on board, what I know I can handle this year. And then I saw you. I don't know if you're familiar with the GIF of the I guess you guys in America call it a pickup truck, a ute or something.
Mm-hmm.
And a guy cuts down a tree, and it lands on it and just crushes the car. And I thought, yeah, that's me just taking on as much as I can this year, is just being crushed by the load. But but yeah, look, my day job is pretty dry. So I really need to, and that's why I make comics. That's why I act. That's why I sing in a band, is because I really need something to keep my brain happy and doing something worthwhile. Because look, even though my job is in a department that helps people, it's such a dry job that doing creative stuff outside of the job, it really helps me sane. It helps keep me sane, and it really helps with my my mental health as well. So I think I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah, and we've had discussions and conversations, Tim, about just the ups and downs of this crazy creative life. But I just, it's important for me to acknowledge and for you to acknowledge that when this all went down, your first reaction is, how can I help? And that's who you are, right? And and so when it gets tough, like, I hope you remember that, because it inspires a lot of people, and it's going to do a lot of good here. So hats off to you and everyone else that's involved in it.
No, thanks, man. Thanks. And I am. I'm just completely overwhelmed by the support we're getting from, not even just the comic book creatives, but the people who are backing the project so far as well. As Sean said, Kevin Smith retweeting it. I believe Jim Lee retweeted it. Neil Gaiman retweeted it. So we've got some very sort of established professionals in the industry, people we look up to, who have caught sight of this what was a tiny project, and is really throwing their hat in the ring and supporting it. It's really overwhelming.
Yeah,
and we've also got some pretty great support from rural firefighters as well, who have contributed some of their very limited downtime to talk to us and share their stories, and we can hopefully get some of that experience across in the book.
And and a shout out to my two favorite Australian wrestlers who have come on board, and they've let me write a story about them fighting fires and stuff for the book as well. So that's an extra special something that makes me smile now that I'm seeing the art come in for that story as well. So
yeah, it's part of this journey is about who you're going to meet along the way, even so I just think it's great. I think it's great, guys. So before we wrap up here, and again, I'll include links and make sure that everyone has all the links to all the stuff that we talked about for this. But any besides going over and supporting this, anything else we want to leave folks with that are watching this and interested in helping and showing your support?
Yeah, look, I know everyone doesn't have the kind of money that they can just drop on a charity book. $20, it is a lot of money to some. It's a lot of money to me most of the time. So look, if you can't financially back the book, just throw the link out there on your social medias. That'd be fantastic. We've all, especially Australia, we all know someone who has been face to face with these fires, or who has lost their family homes and things like that. It's very real, and even if you can't support it financially, man, just throw that link everywhere you can, and just get the word out there. And that to me, that's just as valuable as being able to buy the book.
Yeah.
I've got something I'd like to say as well. It might be a bit cliche, but I'd like to give a special shout out to our firefighting forces here in Australia. The vast majority of them are volunteers. They're not being paid for this work. They haven't been able to attend their day jobs for months. They're underfunded, under-resourced, desperately overworked. They've been on call since September, and they just don't get any downtime. Their own hometowns have been hit. They've lost properties. They've lost good mates. They're just traveling all over the country, fighting these fires, risking their lives, and keeping the rest of it safe. And I think this book is the best way I can contribute to honoring their incredibly important work.
Yeah, and that's 100% what this book is about. Constantly in the Facebook group, I've been saying, we're focusing on the real superheroes. I'm obsessed with superhero comic books. I grew up on them. I write superhero comic books, but I look at these men. I ran into them. I took the family to McDonald's for dinner the other night, and as I was leaving, a bunch of firefighters were sitting there eating, and I just said, "Hey guys, can I just buy you some desserts or something, man?" Because I'm just so thankful and grateful for the work that you're doing. And they politely declined, and but it's just like, I'm just in awe of them, and anything I can do, to show that gratitude is just, the core of why this book is going to exist next month. Yeah.
And for me, I guess I just want to pass on my condolences to all the families and friends that have lost someone. I said, Darren posted up a post the other day of the tribute page that's going to be at the start of the book, and it was very, very surreal to have him go, I have to add names to that. Like, that's just a really horrible situation to kind of be in. So my condolences and everything go out to all the families, especially the US firefighters that have come over and taken their time to come and help us to unfortunately lose their lives. And I don't think I could say it any better than what Shane said and Tim said about our firefighters and all the volunteers and everything. But just want to know that we are thinking of you, all those people, and if you do need anything, that the Facebook group is there to reach out to us. Hope you don't mind me saying that, Tim, but we're here to help. So if there's something that we're able to do and that with those people that are affected, our group is there to kind of even be somewhere to talk to or something. So
yeah, that's pretty powerful, and it's that's the one page that you don't you want to not have to touch again, but I think it's going to be special. It's going to be a special book when it gets into hopefully a lot of people that are a part of this get it in their hands, and I think it's going to have a good message as well, and do what great comics do, is take our minds, take us to some places and shine a light on the good stuff. So thank you all so much for your time to talk about this awesome project, and thank you so much for doing it and for applying your skills at creating comics and launching them to the world for good use. You're all my heroes as well. So thank you so much for that.
thanks.
Thank you, Tyler.
Thanks, Tyler.
All right. And thanks to everybody for watching this broadcast tonight. All right. Take care.